Good morning. My name is Ralf Friedrichs. I'm an author, an addiction recovery coach, a life coach, and host of this show, the Take Your Life Back Today's show. Also, you can see this on video, on YouTube channel, Take Your Life Back Today show with Ralf Friedrichs. I want to talk about this. Let's see if you can identify this boy. Jesus saves an ordinary farm boy. 84 years ago, here comes the name, Billy Graham committed his life to Jesus Christ. No one could have known then how God would use the ordinary farm boy to spread the gospel throughout the world. He thought they were fanatics. One day in May 1934, 15-year-old Billy Graham came home from school to set out to pitch hay to the mules with one of the hired hands at his family's farm on the outskirts of Charlotte, North Carolina. The two heard singing from behind the barn, and the hired man wondered out loud what was happening. I guess they are some fanatics that have talked Daddy into using the place, Billy replied. Little did he know that he himself would be the answer to one of the prayers offered up that day during the prayer meeting being held in the pasture of his family's dairy farm. One of the men in attendance, a salesman named Vernon Patterson, prayed that God would raise up someone from Charlotte to preach the gospel to the ends of the earth. Billy had been baptized and confirmed. He went to church each and every week. His family had Bible reading and prayer together, and he was vice president of the youth group at his church. But his real interest lay elsewhere. He hoped one day to play professional baseball. That's September when an evangelist named Mardi Ham came to Charlotte to preach. That would become an 11-week crusade. Billy wanted no part of it. After a few weeks, however, he became curious. Ham was known for pointing out sin in the communities where he preached, and he claimed to have affidavits stating that students at one of the Charlotte's high schools were involved in immoral behavior at the house across the street from the school. Rumors then spread that students would protest at Ham's meetings. These developments perked Billy's interest, and then a friend named Albert McCain said, "Why don't you come out and hear our fighting preacher?" Billy liked the idea of a fighter. The deal was clinched when McCain offered to let Billy drive his dairy truck to the meetings. After one service, Billy was hooked. He attended night after night, dutiful, taking notes as Ham preached and becoming increasingly convicted that he was a sinner who did not know Jesus Christ. He began to realize that neither his baptism and confirmation nor his church attendance would save him. Our family's Bible reading, praying, psalm singing, and church going, all these had left me restless and resentful, writes Mr. Graham in his autobiography. In a word, I was spiritually dead. During each service, Ham invited people to come forward and to receive Christ. On November 1st, 6 days before his 16th birthday, Billy responded to that invitation. The choir sang four verses of Just As I Am, followed by the hymn Almost Persuaded, Now to Believe. On the final verse of that song, Billy went forward, feeling, he writes, as if I had lead weights attached to my feet. That night he repented of his sins and prayed to receive Christ. And although he felt no great emotion, he knew he was a new person. His mother, Morrow Coffee Graham, called later that when she arrived home from the meeting that night, Billy threw his arms around her and said, "Mother, I am a changed boy." In the months that followed, Billy grew in faith and began sometimes shyly to share his faith with others. Once an evangelist named Jimmy Johnson stayed at the Graham home while in Charlotte, and Billy accompanied him to a church meeting at a jail. Johnson asked Billy to speak to the prisoners for a few minutes, introducing him as a fellow who'll tell you what it's like to be converted. The prisoners looked at uninterested at Billy as Billy spoke, leading him to think he would never be a preacher. Billy Graham couldn't see the path on which God would eventually lead him. And during that pasture prayer meeting, the previous May, Vernon Patterson couldn't have known that a boy doing chores on the other side of a barn might be someone that God would use to answer and to go on to live the way he did. But looking back over 75, now 84 years ago, one can see how Billy called, prepared, and led an ordinary young man to preach the good news of Jesus Christ to nearly 215 million people in more than 185 countries. Are you praying for a loved one to be saved? Someone who shows no interest in Jesus Christ? Jesus taught that we are to pray and never give up, Luke 18:1. More than 7 decades ago, God transformed a farm boy in Charlotte, North Carolina named Billy Graham in answer to prayer. You may see God answer your prayers in the same fashion. Become another Billy Graham. Call me at 844-405-HELP. Together we can help each other take our lives back. Be good to yourselves and always be good to each other. And remember, a simple smile to a total stranger can help that stranger for the rest of his day, her life, and can change your life. May God bless each and every one of you. All of us can become like Billy Graham, but you need to start by asking God for guidance and direction. And may God